1942. I was stationed at Swindon in his nuts, sleeping on paddy asses. That was with straw and everything, very rough. 35 in each hut. All of a sudden we had a call to parade outside, and we was told it was going to move within the hour. So everybody was rushing around, getting all the kit together. We moved out to the vehicles, got them all started and everything. And each of us was given a list, a route list, a map, where we was going to go. And it was from Swindon to Dumfries in Scotland. And this was February 1942. On the list that was given to us was different, what they call staging areas. And that was to say that we did so many miles one day, stayed overnight, and moved again the next day according to the mileage to each staging area. Well, all in convoy, they did 35 vehicles in convoy, and I was the last one in the convoy which carried the blue flag. For any breakdowns that occurred, we had to stop to see if they wanted any repairs, tyre punctures or anything. Fortunately, we had none of that. Anyway, the first staging area turned out to be Doncaster Racecourse. Well, myself, living in just on the outskirts of Doncaster, was a great opportunity for me to probably, with the permission of the officers, to go home. We pulled into the Doncaster Racecourse at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know what day it was, can't remember now. Straight away we had to camouflage and everything else, all the vehicles. Having done that, I went to the officer and I said, "Sir, I live a mile and a half outside Doncaster. With your permission, could I go home?" So he said, "Well, the position is this. We move out tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Now, I'll allow you to go home, providing you promise me that you'll be back before 6 o'clock, which I did make a promise." Straight away, I made my way on foot through the town of Doncaster, caught a bus and went straight home to where my wife lived. When I opened the door, everybody was astounded, amazed to see me. And the first thing the father said to me, what are you doing around here?" I said, "Well," I made an excuse. I said, "We're on manoeuvres." "Oh." And then I got father on one side. I said, "Look, Dad," I said, "we're moving up to Scotland. Most likely I'm going abroad." He says, "Oh my goodness me." In that event, he says, "I won't say anything to Grace or the family that you're going abroad." I said, "Fair enough." Anyway, during the night, Grace became poorly. Shall I say pregnant?
Mm-hmm.
She was pregnant. And Father and I had to, at 1 o'clock in the morning, had to go over ice and snow to find the midwife, which we did. We came back and the midwife took over, and then they had to send for a doctor. The doctor came. Of course, time was going on then towards 5 o'clock, and I said to Father, I said, I'll have to go. So I said, well, you go. He said, everything's under control here. So with that, I had to dash out and make my way back to the racecourse. And actually, the convoy was beginning to move out, and my vehicle had already been dismantled of the scrib nets which covered the vehicle. My pals had already started the vehicle up. I quickly gave a wave to the officer in charge, and he waved back and thumbs up, and we pulled out of the racecourse, heading our way through Doncaster. I thought that I had a good idea, and that was to break off from the convoy, nip down the road, quickly call in to see Grace, and then catch the convoy up again, which I knew the route on the North Road. But going through town, every crossroad and everything was under police control. That was the military police. They were in control of getting the traffic through the town. When they saw that I was going to turn right, that was to go to Bentley, they quickly waved me on to keep going and catch up with the rest of the convoy, which of course I had to do. I then realised that it was impossible that I could get home just for a brief visit to see how things were. The next staging area was Catterick, and it was snowing, it was knee deep in snow. We had to put chains on the vehicles to get through, and we had to camp the night then in Catterick. The next day we moved again towards Dumfries. Snow and ice again, and it was very, very hard driving. When we did keep stopping occasionally, people from all out of the houses came out with big buckets and jugs of tea, which was really a sign of goodwill and everything else, you know, good luck and all sorts. And believe you me, the tea was really acceptable. From there we carried on and we pulled into the dockyard, all in convoy, and we thought, right, this is it, we are going abroad. But we was ordered onto a train. We got onto the train and it set off, and we came all the way back through York, Doncaster, towards London, back to where we started from, Swindon. And we realised then we were being shuttled about up north, back again, and then we were told it more or less what they call troop movements, moving the troops up and down like that. It was confusing the enemy, we'll say, of the movement of all the troops within the country. We got back up to Dumfries, and this time it was definite. We saw this ship. Come on, lads, on this ship. So we got onto the ship, and it was during the night. And my pal said, oh, we're not going far on this, it's not big enough. It's only a small ship. Anyway, we set sail, we moved out of the harbour, probably 5 o'clock or something like that in the morning. We'd hardly had anything to eat, just bare rations of food. And as we got out into the sea, deep sea, we couldn't see a thing, only water. And then one of the boys said to the sailor, "Where are we going?" He says, "Oh, we're not going far. Just look on your right hand side." We looked on the right hand side and there's this big ship, which turned out to be the Cunard liner, Durban Castle, they called it. So we got onto this ship in the Durban Castle, and we was anchored on this ship for a full week, just anchored out to sea. And then everybody was getting really fed up. We didn't know, you know.
Did you have more people coming and going that time?
No, just anchored out to sea, just anchored out. Everybody was doing different duties on the ship. We had certain duties to do, man some of the guns, do drill and everything to keep us mobile. And then everybody was laid on the bunks and on the floors and everywhere. It was really loaded, this ship, really loaded with troops. I couldn't say how many, but I could go into thousands really. And on the Sunday night, at dead on midnight, over the intercom of the ship, "Attention please, attention please. I am the captain of the ship. We're sailing at midnight. Bon voyage to all of you, good sailing and everything else." And then dead on midnight, the motor started to go, and you could feel the lift of the ship, and we started to move. We went further out to sea, and one of the sailors said, "Can you see in the distance the outline of that land?" So I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that's Ireland." "Where are we going, do you know?" He said, "I think we might be going to India." Oh, right. Anyway, we got right out into the sea, and then during the day we saw on the horizon ships, different ships across the horizon, and it looked a massive array of, we'll say, tall buildings. And we're told then that we were going to form a big convoy. We eventually got to all these ships, and they all started to form into a convoy. And our ship, the Durban Castle, was the flagship. And that meant he was the leading one of a, how do you call it? Triangle, leading ship of the triangle. And we started to move. And as you look back in the wake of the ship, you could see all the other ships which was carrying ammunition, personnel. You could see the aircraft carriers dipping up and down as though they were corks. And
so it's pretty rough.
It was rough. It was February, very, very bad. And we hit the Bay of Biscay, and it was terrifying. We were up and down, and the ships, which was probably half a mile away to our left and half a mile probably to our right, with the swell of the sea, just got the impression that they was going to come over the top of you, and then they'd move away back again. Each wave seemed to bring them right on top of you and then swell away. And then all of a sudden the blowers, the alarm on the ship started to go "Reep, reep, reep," and everybody had to get on deck fully equipped, tin hats on and the lot. We were being attacked by submarines. Well, the destroyers was going round at such speed and turning turning round at speed. You just couldn't believe that there was on the sea. You think there was on motor cars going around the circuit of the road sort of thing. And they was going around the speed, dropping depth charges. And we were zigzagging along the course and everything. And we managed to get through the submarine area, but the submarines had already hit parts of the convoy at the back. You could see the water going up, and although we didn't see the actual ships sinking, because we were still moving of course, there was quite a few sunk. And then we got
Did you see any explosions from where they hit the submarines?
Yes, you could hear the explosions, yes.
That must have been quite scary.
Yes, it was, very. And the terrific water that came up after each depth charge had been set. It was just like a mountain moving up. And then we got through the Bay of Biscay and we got into the Mediterranean, which was then, of course, a lot calmer, and we more or less got over the worst. And then we was approaching North Africa. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning, everybody was on duty on deck, all stood there waiting for orders what was going to happen, what we were going to do. We'd had no breakfast whatever, and we approached towards Algiers. And as we approached Algiers, that'd be about 12 o'clock in the morning sort of thing. And the Germans started to dive bomb and drop bombs onto the harbour, which of course halted us from getting into the harbour. There was attack going all over the place. We got very few aircraft to help us at all. They at the time was commandeering the air attacks. Eventually we moved in gradually, slowly, into the harbour where ships had already been sunk. But we managed to pull in and we had to run off the ships. But once we got into the harbour and into the docks, of course we were starving, we were really, really hungry. And the first thing that we really saw was these Arabs, and they got a lot of tangerines, oranges, which we all grabbed and stuffed our pockets with these tangerines and everything. And
did they bring them out for you, or did
no,
you just...
No, they were just ordinary Arabs selling selling it to their own people,
Did you have to trade with them, or did
No,
you just
no,
take them?
we just stole them. We just picked them off. They couldn't do anything about it. We just helped us sell tangerines, melons, and anything that we could get our hands on. So when we were all in strength, our orders came then. We had to start to advance towards the Germans, but at the same time we were advancing towards the 8th Army, which was coming up from what they call it, Benghazi, Tripoli. The 8th Army was coming up that way, and we was going towards them to meet up, to trap the Germans. We'd been held under for over 2 days in a valley, what they call Spit Alley. They termed it as Spit Alley.
This was in Tunisia or in Africa?
In Africa, yeah.
This was on your way to Tunisia?
Yeah, and why they called it Spit Alley was, it was like a hill on either side and a valley in between. And the German planes, what they used to do, there weren't many of them, but what few there were, they were causing upheaval. What they used to do, the Germans, was come in with the sun behind them. Of course, that when you're looking at the sun you can't see, and it's that strong. They had the sun behind them, and they'd come in low with the mountain range alongside them as a cover, and they'd come in low, and then they'd suddenly turn and come direct onto you as you was in convoy. Well, what they called it spitally was, we was at the top of this hill, and we had to go down this long run across the valley, which would be 4 or 5 miles at least, to the other side. And as we had to go down at intervals, as fast as you could go, the German plane used to swing round, come down and machine gun it. Well, what we had then was a man stood at the side of you on the seat, and they had a hole in the top where he could look over the top of the cab, and he'd be like spotting. And as soon as he saw the German plane and got the warning, and each of the vehicles had the same warning, he used to hit on the top of the vehicle cab, telling it to either bail out or stop. And you used to have to drive with the door open, ready for that, because it was limited for your foot movement. By that I mean, underneath your feet, you had sandbags to stop any shrapnel coming up from any mines or anything, and shrapnel in the boxes under your seat, all full of sandbags. And your toes could only just touch the brake and the accelerator. You're so limited. We managed to get through, but there were one or two that had been hit, that was laid on the side or run into the ditch and then just left. And of course everybody had to get onto another vehicle and keep moving. Everything was, don't stop, keep moving. So, as I say, the tanks got together again, and then we moved up forward, and we were running into a bit of an ambush. And we lost quite a few tanks, as well as men and transport.
Can you describe what happened as you came up and got into this ambush, how you realised it and what you had to do? And
well, it was a matter of either fire or retreat. If you realised that you was in ambush, of course you couldn't hold your position, you had to retreat to further reinforcements behind you. But fortunately, there were some marine units to our left which went into action, and they did actually halt the Germans advancing, which was a good thing.
what was your job to do at the time when this ambush started?
Well, I was actually supplying the tank with ammunition.
Right.
And it was a matter of getting as near to the tanks as you could, which you were more or less working within a half a mile perimeter from the tanks back to yourself. And then the ammunition was hand carried towards the tanks, and little ammunition piles was made that if the tanks had to retreat, they still got some ammunition to pick up from these little dumps what we'd put. And then of course we retreat and refuel, reloaded again, ready for the next move. After the Germans had retreated, of course, as I say, into Italy, we then had to more or less wait. It could have been a week, 2 or more, and we were all driving into this field, and this field was on a left-hand bank. And it was just the shape of a horseshoe, but as I say, it was banked up on the left-hand side all the way around. So the officer told the ammunition vehicles to park up onto the left bank, put your camouflage nets up and everything, cover your windscreens up with sheets that we'd got because of the sun, camouflage everything. And the petrol vehicles was told to go on the top bank. We were told then we would be there for a day or two, which was a good relief, a rest at last.
Vor dem großen Tor stand eine Laterne und steht sie noch davor.
So this particular day I'm sat on the tailboard of the vehicle, and it was just before what we called tea time break at 10 o'clock. And I was sat there with my tin mug, and my mates and 4 more lads came up, and they said, "Are you coming with us, Ken?" I said, "Well, what are you doing?" They said, "Oh, we're just having a scout round to see what there is." So I said, "No, I'm not coming." So Dick Gower, my closest pal, said, "Well, get me a mug of tea," so we shan't be long, "Get me a mug of tea, it'll be alright when I come back." I said, "Okay, Dick." So off these lads went, and I could see them in the distance just disappearing like. And about quarter an hour, 20 minutes after, I could see them coming back. And I could see 2 of them, and it seemed as though they was carrying something. I thought, oh, I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, they came, and they lifted the scrib net up and they swung this thing onto the tailboard. I said, "What the heck have you got there?" "Oh, it's a wireless set." Oh, wireless set, it looked really smashing, wireless set. They're going to do something with that. Anyway, Dick got his mug of tea and off they went. He said, "Are you coming up?" So I said, "No, I'm stopping here a bit." Anyway, they carried this wireless set up to the vehicles. Well, these petrol vehicles, what the lads had done, they'd taken the superstructure off, put it to the side of the vehicle, camouflage the petrol cans again, camouflage the canopy, and then they used that inside, which could hold 6 or 7 men, as we made our own beds out of anything we could find, made these little beds to keep us off the ground, and they used to just sleep under the canopy of the vehicle. Well, apparently what they did with this was they wired it up to the batteries of the petrol vehicle. Next minute there's this explosion. Whoom! I just literally jumped off the tailboard, and I was running up towards the tent, and the Sergeant Walden shouted, get back, Turner, get back." I said, "No, I'm coming." So we both ran up to the tent, and there was the damage. There was one lad there leaning forward to reach for his leg, and he just wheeled over onto his right, and he was died. He was dead. The others were dead. One was walking as black as anything, his face and his hands. He was just, he didn't know, he was just walking down, and then he collapsed. And the petrol had ignited on this petrol wagon, and it was in full blaze. The tyres burst, and the vehicle started to move because it was on this incline. And it moved down past Sergeant Walton and I as though somebody was actually driving it. And it went careering down, it went straight into the back of an ammunition truck, spilt all the petrol forward. The ammunition truck started to be on fire. There were shells and ammunition blowing up to such an extent But we all had to lay flat on the floor and crawl towards this white building that was in the, say, 200 yards or more. We literally crawled on hands and knees because these shells and ammo was just bursting in all directions. We got into this building for cover, and when it had died down, we'd actually lost 5 vehicles, 5 men, staff car and 2 motorbikes. It was just a chaotic experience. It had also killed somebody, a red cap that was on duty this particular point, so far away from us. It had killed, he'd been killed by these shells and explosions. It was just unbelievable. Anyway, it was such a bad thing that it was circulated all round the units in the area. Do not let your men do any patrolling or going out searching for different things. But what had happened, my mates had gone and they'd found this German compound, and they'd retreated so fast that everything in the compound they'd left. Of course they were sorting things out. There's helmets, knives, cameras, anything that looked valuable they was bringing back. But as I say, they brought this wireless back. I don't know what else, what the others had got. But this wireless had been detonated with TNT. And as soon as, of course, it was connected to the batteries, it went up, and that was termed as a booby trap. Now, in these compounds, when the Jerry left, you never knew what was wired up to anything to cause these booby traps to go off. It was unbelievable. You daren't pick anything up after that. And even to run towards a trench, if you've been aircraft or anything, you dare not jump into a trench because that too could have been booby trap. Even dead Germans, you could see wires from the tunics going down into different things, and they too had been booby trap.
Did you ever see any of that?
Yes, I saw going into Tripoli, it was. No, not Tripoli. Padua in Italy. It was going up, and we were halted by these infantrymen, and they was walking in front of us with these minesweepers, and as they was walking in front of us, there was laying white tape on either side, which meant that you had to keep in between these tapes as they more or less cleared the way in front. And there were 1 or 2 Germans laid there, and one of them, I looked down, and he was more or less with his face on one side, and I squirmed and turned my head away because he seemed to be looking at me, and he was detonated. But as I say, even that man, by our infantrymen, wasn't pushed on one side. They were just left, as I say, they were detonated, and we weren't taking any chances. We got through that all right. And there was a German railway track going through Tivoletto.
So this is now after you've moved from Africa and you've gone over to Italy and you're sort of advancing up.
This was in Italy.
Through into Italy now.
Yeah. And our tank was actually inside a building, we can say, where the front had been pushed down, and they were just inside, firing across this valley. And the Germans was using the railway track, and they'd come up with this heavy gun, and he'd fire across the valley towards this tank and the other tanks, and then retreat and then come back again. And from this little, where this tank of ours was, there was this slope down again into another valley. And I then was driving a Jeep, because I'd been posted to this Jeep platoon, which had a different job to do.
What was that?
Well, it was a Jeep platoon which was formed to operate. We were told that there'd be probably 400 Jeeps going to operate along this front line, which was over a mile long, this front line. And we was to operate taking infantry, ammunition, petrol, Gurkhas, or whatever infantry was moving forward. And our work was to work along with the infantry from 11 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock. That was the time allocated to do the job, between 11 and 4. I'd go back, I'd pick ammunition up, petrol, take that forward, come back, pick Gurkhas up, there'd be 6 or 7 in the little trailer, and 1 or 2 sat with me, and I'd get forward, and then they all of a sudden they'd tap me on the shoulder to stop. They'd get out, and there wasn't a word spoken by these Gurkhas. They was immaculate. They looked as though they were going on a Sunday parade. They was immaculate. And they get out, tap you on the shoulder, and they'd unload them, they'd pick everything out themselves, whatever was in the tank with them, they'd unload that, tell me to turn around and disappear again. And then from there they'd move forward, dig the trenches, ready for the operation. And this was done for 2 or 3 nights, because everything seemed to be still along the front. But weather hadn't been too good either. In fact, in some places everybody was bogged down for a bit because of the rain. Anyway, after we'd finished our duties doing this for a night or 2, then came the word that there was going to be a big advance, which was going to operate from 4 o'clock onwards. And true enough, 4 o'clock, heavens opened up. 75 pounders that was firing along the front. Whoop, 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 whoop. Complete barrage of 75 millimeters going.
75 pound. They're like the big guns.
75 pounders.
They're the big guns.
Yeah, and they was going. And then what we had to do then was to reload with everything again in the Jeeps, and as the tanks moved forward and the infantry, we had to follow as near as we could to them and keep going. And that was the word, no stop, keep going. And this was in advancing towards Casino. And we did keep the Germans retreating back to Casino. Of course, when we got to Casino, they altered it again. We came to a halt, because Casino commandeered the routes from the south, and the main route up north, that's by the coast. They commandeered all that on all 3 sides, north, south, and the west. But what the Germans were doing then, after that, they'd retreat on this railway track, and as they retreated, they had big claws to actually hook onto the railway lines and rip them all up so they couldn't be used again. Yeah, just literally like doing a chocolate roll, you know, ripped them up like that. So no railway track could be reused by us. Of course, they were relayed eventually by the engineers and what have you. But that was what they did. And then when we got to Casino, every morning it was just like a mist, a fog. You could see 2 or 3 feet underneath, and it was mist along the top. And the stench, you could smell the stench and everything from dead animals and everything. Casino was just seemed to be falling down the hillside, and eventually we got moving past Casino on what they call Route 6, which took us up towards Rimini. We were parked up alongside a town, I forgot what they called it, and it had one of these seafront appearances where you get your low wall and where you could jump over parapets down the slope.
Was this in Italy?
Yeah. And I was parked up and all of a sudden there's sirens going, and out of nowhere there's 2 or 3 aircraft coming down one behind the other. Resistance machine gunning. And they were more or less into the town actually, on the main road. But we were parked up, and of course you had to take cover. We run straight across these parapets and jumped over to take cover while they came down to turn around and come back again. Or they'd turn around and come back the opposite way. So you didn't know which direction they were going to come. But to hear the bullets spitting through and hitting things, it's just like hearing a tree being stripped of branches, you know. And there was one particular part where we was in this little town, and the HQ was 1/4 mile away from where we were, and Jerry was dropping these bombs, and he dropped one quite close to the HQ, and I was actually going to the HQ that day with some information, some letters and what have you. And there was this big crater, and one of the guards that had been on guard for the HQ was actually blown into the hole, and that was another place where we got held up again. And then from Rimini we came back inland because Germans was then actually retreating because Russia in the meantime had moved that fast across Russia into Germany, and they was advancing that fast on to Berlin that the German army in Italy just literally moved back and more or less give themselves up. In fact, they was giving themselves up themselves, making their own way and using some of our transport to go back to the POW camps. And
how long was this? How long were you in Africa, and then how long?
Well, it was 3.5 years overall, from going into Africa to coming out of Italy. 3.5 years. But getting back to the Mob area, when we got to Dover, we were staying into these big buildings, and there was counters upon counters of clothing, trilbies, suits, shirts, socks. You're allowed just to take one suit, one trilby, socks and everything else. But to see us all standing there in a uniform, trying trilbies on and suits, and we're laughing about it because some was big, some was small. We make a real joke out of it because, as I say, we've been in uniform for me being called up at 20 and I'm coming out at 25. So I think it's a long gap to start trying suits on. Anyway, I got mine together, and I kept saying, does this suit me, does that suit me, yeah, you're okay, yeah, you're alright. And we made our way home then, and then when I got home, letting everybody see this suit, and as it happened, Grace had already had this tailor make me a suit as what she thought was my size from the trousers that I'd had before. And I got this suit on, of course. It was a nice suit. It was better than the one I'd chosen, of course. And I hadn't been in the house an hour when the knock came at the door. Somebody had seen me walking. They wanted to buy my suit straight away because the suits were scarce in England. And what was happening, these men was buying the suits up and setting up shop with them.
So did you sell it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, do you remember the first feeling it was like coming home? Was it strange, you know, coming up to your own house after 3.5 years?
Well, when
You hadn't seen Dad at all, had you?
no, when I got onto the train at King's Cross, everybody, of course, was still in the uniform. Like, you could feel that. And when the train was actually packed with soldiers back on the way home, you know, stood up in the corridors and everything. ATS girls, WAFs, Scotch lads, all the lot, having a real good sing-along and that there. And when I got towards Grantham, Peterborough, Newark, when it got towards Newark, I was so tense that I actually got up and I stood in the corridor with all my kit, shaking before I got to Doncaster, actually shaking. And then when I got up at Doncaster, of course, the station was all as it was, not how it is today. And there's Grace's father and Grace waiting to meet me because I'd already sent a telegram what time I would be arriving. Of course, it was all hug and tears and jubilation, and we got onto the Tratless, and when I got home they opened the front door and I walked in and everything was quiet. I walked down the passage into the living room, and there's my mum and dad sat by the piano. There's all the family, there's all the sisters, and Vic and John, the only 2 boys, and all the sisters, and everybody were all sat around the table. And there was no Terry. Terry wasn't there. Of course, I went to my mum and dad, and then I went to Grace's mum and dad, and everybody else, and then had a cup of tea, and I said, where's Terry like? So this, so what they'd done, Terry had had a bath. Well, it would be getting on towards his bedtime. Yeah, it would be. Anyway, what was the surprise was that he'd had a bath, he'd had his hair done, he'd got clean pyjamas on, and they brought him downstairs and they opened the door and he stood there straight as a soldier, as I had been told that my dad was a soldier. He got the standard soldier, and he stood there and I stood there looking at him, and tears started to come down. And he came to me and I went to him and picked him up. That was it.